In 1946, a film called The Killers came out. It starred Burt Lancaster in his film debut and was based on a short story by Ernest Hemingway. It was also co-written by famous film director John Huston, who decided to have his contributions go uncredited. It ended up being the film that launched Lancaster's career. A remake was made in 1964, which ended up being the last film of another famous Hollywood actor. That actor was Ronald Reagan. Yes, that Ronald Reagan. The famous Hollywood actor who later became the 40th President of the United States.
Ronald Reagan? The actor? Then who's vice president? Jerry Lewis?
This was his last film that he made before he entered politics. I mean, really, he can't be that bad of an actor. I mean, one of his quotes was listed as the 89th greatest movie quote of all time by the American Film Institute.
Ask them to go in there with all they've got. Win just one for the Kipper.
That's got to count for something. If I'm being honest, I hadn't really seen that many Ronald Reagan movies before this, besides the one with him and the monkey. But I'd already planned on reviewing one of his movies at some point. But which one? I found that answer in an unlikely spot. I first heard about this movie when I read a biography about actor Lee Marvin. Lee Marvin was the main star of this film, and apparently he was not a huge fan of Reagan as an actor, and neither was James Garner, apparently. Lee Marvin called this his favorite movie of his own that he'd made at that time. That's quite an endorsement. But that wasn't what made me want to see it. This was not only Reagan's last movie, it is the only movie where Ronald Reagan plays a bad guy. That alone was enough to get me to want to see the movie. But aside from that, it has a good cast. I mean, Lee Marvin, John Cassavetes, Don Siegel of Dirty Harry fame directed it. And it's a remake of a classic starring Burt Lancaster, which is based on an Ernest Hemingway story. I mean, it actually looked like a good movie. Better than Bozo Goes to Sleep, at least. Yeah, I might actually be reviewing a good movie this time. Also, interesting fact, this movie was going to be a TV movie in the United States, but they decided against that because the movie was deemed too violent. Sure.
More seldom than not, the movies gives us exquisite sex and wholesome violence that underscores our values. Every two-child did. I will. End quote.
And somehow the movie ended up in the Criterion Collection. Okay, well, technically it was a double feature with the original 1946 Burt Lancaster film. If you don't know what the Criterion Collection is, it's this prestigious DVD and Blu-ray releasing company that restores and releases high-quality art house films. I mean, it's not the strangest film that's ended up in there. Apparently, Armageddon was released under their label, as well as The Rock and RoboCop as well. Okay, the film starts with the opening title sequence, which shows red silhouettes, typical 60s and 70s crime thriller opening. I like that transition from the sunglasses that Clu Gulager's wearing. That's pretty cool. You see Lee Marvin, Clu Gulager as two hitmen, looking like characters from a 1960s spy movie like Dr. No or the cop show Hawaii Five-0 or something.
Do you always wear shades?
Always. They help me hide the fact I'm always lying to women.
They try finding a teacher, and Lee Marvin chokes a lady for information. He knocks her out, and they go to find the guy. Kind of a dark opening there. Where's Charles Bronson when you need him? When was this movie made? 1964? Okay, the jury doesn't come out yet. That was 1967. Instead, Lee Marvin meets a different Dirty Dozen cast member, John Cassavetes. They enter the room and shoot him multiple times. Afterwards, Lee Marvin becomes suspicious of the hit, as John Cassavetes didn't try to run away, and they were paid a huge amount of money for the job. It is revealed that John Cassavetes was a successful race car driver whose career ended after a crash. He was involved in a mail truck robbery before his death where
$1 million!
went missing. They decide to investigate the missing money by finding one of Cassavetes' friends.
What's the deal?
He wants a deal.
No deal.
So they try and get information out of him. At first he doesn't want to talk.
I don't know where Johnny is, what trouble he got into.
He's dead.
He's dead. All the way.
Well, it just so happens that your friend here is only mostly dead. There's a big difference between mostly dead and all dead. Mostly dead is slightly alive. Now, all dead, well, with all dead, there's usually only one thing that you can do.
What's that?
Go through his clothes and look for loose change.
But they eventually have to beat it out of him. You know, typical 60s crime thriller stuff. Honestly, the plot is so goddamn generic. I mean, if Don Siegel's directing and Lee Marvin's acting weren't so good, this would just be another typical film from that time period. Through his drunkenness, he tells them about Johnny, about how he met his girlfriend Sheila. They go to flashback land. And it's a long flashback, too. This takes up, like, the middle portion of the movie, pretty much.
Dames or a dame. It just takes one.
Anyway, they end up finding out that Ronald Reagan is a mob boss. Reagan is a mob boss who was sleeping around with Sheila. Just from his first few lines, you can tell that his performance isn't going to be that great.
You find her?
Naturally.
I figured she'd be here.
Naturally.
Over in the pits.
Let's go.
In the pits with the drivers?
There's more action there.
Reagan's a surprisingly wooden actor. There's kind of a reason he was just a B-list actor. Like, of the actors in this, he's actually one of the worst, believe it or not, which is surprising to me. That, and I just don't buy Reagan as a villain. Yeah, I wasn't a fan of his presidency, but the guy's too damn likable. You want an actor who did do a good job of playing a bad guy in the, like, one chance he was given? Tom Cruise. I'm not even kidding. One of Tom Cruise's best performances was as a hitman in the movie Collateral. It has to be the best acting of his career. I'm not even a huge fan of Tom Cruise, but I am impressed that he managed to completely flip his charismatic persona completely around. And frankly, Reagan just doesn't do that here. Anyway, back to the plot. He was staying up too late, getting drunk, and having sexy time, and it ended up making him disoriented while driving his race car, causing a car crash. Lee Marvin and Clu Gulager ask where they can find Sheila. Later, they're at dinner trying to figure out what to do. In the meantime, they try and find some clues from a gangster named Mickey who works at the gym.
Mickey's running a gymnasium up in New Orleans.
Does he train the Italian Stallion, perchance?
Gonna eat lightning, and you're gonna crap thunder!
Some chance we know we're gonna find out, haven't we?
You're gonna find out for $1 million.
$1 million!
Inhale down. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale.
They start interviewing Mickey. They get the names of the mobsters. Then it cuts to Reagan and Sheila at the racetrack.
Mickey, you should learn to enjoy the simple things in life.
There are two kinds of coops. The ones that race these wrecks and the ones that watch them.
You know, Reagan's making me miss presidents that had movie star hair like that. I mean, seriously. Like, Did his hair just always look like that, just slicked up like that? Anyway, Sheila and Johnny talk. This movie's so goddamn boring, I'm just gonna skip ahead a bit.
Prepare to fast forward!
Preparing to fast forward.
Fast forward!
Fast forwarding, sir.
No, go past this part. In fact, never play this again.
Anyway, Reagan and his buddies need a getaway driver for the robbery, and they decide to try and get Johnny for the job. Johnny still feels bad after Sheila was going after Reagan, but he forgives her. Johnny gives Reagan the car, but he gets mad when he finds out Sheila's interested in him. Then we get one of the more infamous scenes in the movie. They're getting the plan set up. Reagan shows a picture of a horribly drawn map for the robbery. They're just in a warehouse setting up their big plan for the robbery. Wait a minute, Ronald Reagan robbery? Is this one inspired Point Break?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are the ex-presidents, and we need just a few moments of your time. We've been screwing you for years, so a few more seconds shouldn't matter, now should it?
Then Reagan tells Johnny he doesn't want Sheila involved in the plot.
Just stick with you. Get back to the hotel and stay there.
I like it here.
I like it here. It's nice. I like it. Hello, Dad. I'm in jail.
Then this happens.
Go on, get moving.
I said, I like it here.
Well, I can change that in a hurry.
Our president, ladies and gentlemen.